How's it going, everyone? It's Damo, and I'm here with my good mate Scrub.
Hello.
With there being very little changes in the Title Update 3 meta for the bowguns, we wanted to show off some tech that was actually added in the 2.5 Title Update. This has a heavy influence on the Elemental light bowgun meta.
The tech that has changed the elemental meta is poison ammo and also to a lesser extent exhaust ammo. So, for those who don't know, back in Title Update 2.5, Capcom increased the gauge regen of all status ammo, that is poison, sleep, para, and exhaust, um, which was it resulted in some fun testing. Our friend Harold had tested it and noted that the gauge regen was very fast, but because it did no damage, we sort of shelved the investigation of that for a little bit because we were very busy theory crafting all the possible RNG talismans in some of the previous videos that we made. But then one of the speedrunners that we follow, Warabito, um, used it in a very convincing like 534 run versus Gore Magala. And for light bowgun enjoyers, you know that Gore is a notoriously slow and difficult fight for light bowgun. And the secret was that he eschewed Ardian entirely and used a Guardian Rathalos gun for its now premium access to poison ammo. And one of the disadvantages of elemental light bowguns that anyone who has used them can attest to is that rapid fire mode feels great. You're having fun, you're having a good time. But as soon as you run out of that, you got to recharge your gauge somehow. And corrupted mental helps, but you still got to stand still and do your silly little Ellie chasers where you're rooted to the ground for like 150 something frames, 2.5 seconds, where Gore can start and finish an attack and just beat you into the ground. So that was a particularly notable pain point of the matchup prior to this. But solely from the perspective of comfort, you can use poison ammo to regen your gauge in, um, I think with Corrupted Mantle, it's 8 shots. And that gets you all the way back to your full gauge. And I kind of don't know if we have any viewers who have even used poison ammo before this, but it has very, very, very comfortable ammo characteristics. That is, its recoil is really low, so it fires really quickly, and it reloads the fastest of, I don't know of all the ammos, but it reloads much faster than any of the damaging ammos that we've used. Maybe on par with normal, I don't know. But it allowed him to maneuver around Gore safely. And not have to commit to the chasers, despite not really dealing any damage, because poison only does like I think 270 damage to Gore. So from the comfort aspect, it was a slam dunk, an immediate success. Poison lets you outmaneuver the enemies through difficult mechanics and have higher rapid fire gauge uptime, which is where you want to deal the most of your damage anyway. Light bowgun does do 60% more damage for element when in rapid fire mode as opposed to outside doing alternating Ellie chasers after all. So from a comfort perspective, poison ammo is incredible and is something that I think even casual hunters should incorporate into their hunts as long as they're willing to have Nada go out and fetch some toadstools for them. But is it a damage increase? After all, poison doesn't really do much. Chasers, even though you are out of rapid fire mode for longer, do a lot more damage as well. So, is it good for damage versus a dummy? And the answer to that is yes. I think, especially as you start stacking Corrupted Mantle, and once you start factoring in being able to front load your rapid fire gauges earlier and earlier and earlier into the hunt, yeah, it's a damage increase even in practice. So it's just as suitable for speedrun as it is for casual play.
And look, we only really need to look at your recent speedrun scrub to see the actual effects to the extent of how good poison ammo is. You've got a Legiacris in 312, and you've got an Arch Tempered New Udra in, was it 331? Is that correct, mate?
331.
Yeah, like it's the thing with these speedrunners is also they need to not get hit to be able to pull off these really good times, and they're going to reset a whole heap of times. And being able to not need to gamble those early chases, but instead being able to use that comfortable poison ammo, it helps speedrunners as well. Like it's not just the DPS increase, but it's allowing you to be more consistent with your runs. One of the things about LE chases that I really don't like is the fact that when you go for those LE chases, you don't get to move at all for that 150 frames, which you mentioned earlier. But what we didn't really discuss there is even though they do good damage, if the monster moves, you're not going to land all the ticks on your LE chaser. So poison ammo really just pulls ahead by so much. So the big question that's going to be on everyone's minds is, what does our meta look like going forward and what guns do we use? Well, as previously mentioned in our older elemental light bowgun meta build videos, you are going to still be using two distinct bowguns on your elemental sets. You're going to have two fire bowguns, but now you're not going to be having two identical fire bowguns, two identical water, and so on. So for fire, what you're going to do is you're going to have a perfect Ardian gun as gun 1, like the old meta, but then you're going to be having the Guardian Rathalos gun as gun 2. And I'll be showing, in corners what kind of decorations you're going to want to put on the Guardian Rathalos gun. Regarding, the decos for gun 1, they're going to be the exact same as it was in previous videos. So you can either check out those videos or you can just have a look at the guide, which I'm going to be linking in the description. So that's fire. Now for water, water is interesting. Water is two Ardian guns, but the first Ardian gun is going to be, a perfect water gun. And then the second one is going to be a poison gun because a poison Ardian gun is going to have water ammo. Unfortunately for Thunder, Thunder doesn't get to change much. Thunder doesn't have a good method of doing this. Thunder can't get poison ammo, and whilst it can get something like paralysis ammo, and para as a status is very good, Capcom were very smart here. They made it so that the really good statuses, like say para, or I'd say the second best one is sleep, those ammo types have a really slow reload and much higher recoil than poison. So para and like Thunder, they're going to mostly stay the same. What I would recommend for people is using a Paralysis Guardian as your first gun, and then using a Thunder gun as your second gun. And the reason that we want to do that is because we are still going to be using LE chasers on that Thunder gun, so we want to make sure that we have a clip size of 6. When we go and we use the Paragon, you're only going to get a clip size of 5 when you're outside of rapid fire mode, which is really awkward for elemental chasers since, you have to do 2 shots at a time and you'd have an odd clip size in that scenario. But by having the Paragon as gun 1, you still get access to that para at either the start or the end of the hunt, so it's still going to be very useful. Now, for ice, things get really, really interesting. So for ice, what you get to do is you can still do the old setup, which is double ice Ardian. If you wanted to sneak in a sleep Artian, because maybe you're playing with a greatsword user or you're doing scripts where you want to sleep a monster underneath a rock for double damage, that all makes perfect sense. You would use the sleep gun as gun 1 and then the ice gun as gun 2. However, exactly what we've been talking about regarding poison ammo, you can do the same thing with exhaust ammo, and it's quite effective. You do need to use the Hirabami gun, and the thing with the Hirabami gun is that it is notably weaker than the Ardian gun, but having this comfort is really, really nice, right? Like, you don't have to do those LE chases, and when we think ice, we're really thinking about Radar, who's going to be flying all over the place, and you're going to miss a lot of ticks from your LE chases. So using exhaust ammo is nice. However, in this case, it's more of a side grade than it is a upgrade. And the reason why it's not a huge upgrade is because there's actually slightly more recoil on exhaust ammo compared to poison ammo. So it's not anywhere near as bad as like para or sleep is for that recoil, but it's not quite as good as poison. Still, a very comfortable option, and it is my go-to option purely for that comfort scenario. But if you were looking at speedrunning, you're probably still going to go to those LE chasers. But for casual players, definitely the exhaust ammo. You also, if you have really good aim and hit Radar's head with a lot of those exhaust shots, you can get yourself a KO, which is going to be really nice there. Now regarding the armor sets, the laggy gore option is going to be still the meta option for water, thunder, and ice elements. However, fire has to change slightly because the Guardian Rathalos gun is so good, but the Guardian Rathalos gun also has 15% affinity on it. And if you were to run the laggy gore setup, then you're going to be overcapping your affinity whenever that laggy set bonus is active. So instead of using laggy gore, we're going to, kind of unfortunately, go back to using Gore 4. However, we are going to be running earplugs on those Gore 4 setups. I will leave a link in the description to what the new Gore 4 setup is going to look like, just because I want to keep this background footage here so people can see what this looks like in action. And I don't want to have, big overlaying builds, but you can just quickly check there to see what the Gore 4 build looks like. Most people are going to remember what the Gore 4 build looks like, so that's totally fine. So guys, we're going to be ending it there. I really hope this has been helpful and that this can keep on pushing that light bowgun meta forward more and more. Light bowgun hasn't gotten a lot of power creep when it comes to actual updated builds, right? We haven't gotten new skills that really impact us much. The earplugs was really nice to have on our builds. Once we discovered earplugs was good, we now run that religiously. And like other weapons are getting other set bonuses and things that are going to be really useful. We haven't been getting too much to give us power creep. However, the little changes that they've made, like changing how these status ammos work, has been really good for us. And light bowgun is really pulling ahead. I believe at the moment it's actually the fastest speedrun. I think Warabito's very recent speedrun on 18 new Udra is the fastest one that I've seen on the internet. The second fastest being Scrubs, and then after that there's like a 30-second gap. I think it's about like 25 seconds to the next fastest speedrun, and that's just how effective light bowgun is at the moment with these elemental builds, and especially utilizing that poison ammo. Now, I also wanted to finish up by just saying that I recently got a full-time job, and with that, and with a lot of sport that I do as well, my days, they start at 7 a.m. and they don't finish till 8 p.m. I don't have a lot of time for videos, so there's not going to be a whole heap of consistent videos, and it's more going to be about, for me, making videos when I believe there's something really important to talk about. In this case, this poison ammo tech, really important to talk about, and a lot of people need to be on board with this, because when I see light bowgun players joining my lobby, I'm going to be really happy when I see that poison Ardian gun being used against 18 new Udra. So I did want to give a quick update. Obviously, the videos are going to be coming out a lot slower, but they're still going to have that same level of optimization as we've seen previously. Thank you guys so much for listening. Damo out.